So we really wanted to thank everyone for just making an incredible day happen. Thank you. You probably saw that list of volunteers at the end. We have amazing volunteers who help make everything happen. We showed you a bunch of their names before, but it is very extensive at this point to make everything happen with the Equalize program, both today, the in-person day, everything that we've talked about so far, and just really our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has made this happen. So with that, I'm very pleased to announce our panel. Before we get to our awards, we're going to have a panel, and I'm very happy to introduce them to you and have them talk about the impact Equalize Startups has had over the past 5 years. So we are going to highlight Chris Garabedian, Sanjia, and how do we say them all? And Brianna. Great. And I'm going to have you each introduce yourselves very, very quickly. Sanjia, maybe I'll have you start.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody, and congratulations on being on Equalize. I think that's the biggest part of it. And so happy to be back here. I was the first Equalize winner. I think I have my award still here. So thank you. Yeah, and I'm actually a neuropharmacologist by training, a professor in microbiology, immunology at Drexel University College of Medicine, and a former co-inventor and also a co-founder of Polycore Therapeutics. Still an inventor, not a but not a co-founder anymore. So glad to be here and happy to talk to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Chris?
Sure. I think every conference should play a song like that to revive the energy at the end of a day. But anyway, I'm on the investing side. I run 2 investment vehicles. One is a accelerator called Zontogeny, where we make seed investments and work with first-time CEOs, entrepreneurs, scientific founders, much like Equalize showcases. And I also run the venture funds for Perceptive Advisors, where we make Series A, Series B, larger investment rounds across life sciences.
Thank you, Chris. Great to have you here too. Brianna.
Hey, everybody. It's nice to meet you all. Thanks for being here and congratulations. I was a member of last year's cohort and won for the digital tools category. I'm the founder of the Family Room, which is a digital health tool to help hospitalized caregivers care for family members who are in the hospital. So it's great to be here. I'm also an assistant professor at the University of Nebraska Medical Center and a nurse scientist for the Nebraska Medicine Health System. Thanks.
Yeah, so glad to have you all here, and having such longtime supporters of Equalize here. I'm going to start with Brianna and Sanjay. Can you describe your journeys from academic to company founder? And I'd especially like to hear about where you are now versus where you started, just to give some perspective of how that's worked. Maybe Brianna, I can start with you.
Yeah, so my journey's been fast and furious. As I mentioned, I won the digital tools category last year, but really at that point we had an idea. And I went from no funding the day I pitched to just short of $1 million of non-dilutive funding to move forward over the next calendar year. So I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. I know I'm not alone. Other founders, I hope, will say the same thing. But really the journey has been a lot of fun. It's a lot of new learning as an academic. One thing I wanted to say is that if you're new and you're here today and you feel as if you don't know what anyone is talking about, that's okay. I still have meetings, especially when we're talking about funding and Series A and Series B, and I'm not exactly sure what all of that means to me. And so I just want to normalize that for founders and say that you will learn and people will teach you, and people are incredibly generous. The other thing I really just wanted to pull out is that I'm not always sure what's next as far as big picture, but I know what I have to do tomorrow. And that has really helped me stay grounded and make sure that we have daily goals, we have weekly goals, we have monthly goals as a team. And that helps me kind of task and stay centered and not get overwhelmed by the newness. And then just the last thing I wanted to say is that there is so much value in a team. I was a college athlete, I know that, but I am feeling that at my core, and really a diverse team, diverse skills, diverse opinions, diverse backgrounds. And that has been probably the biggest asset to our movement and the speed at which we've moved, is making sure that I don't have to be good at everything. I just have to find the people that are. And that has been a lot of fun in finding those team members and working together. Thanks.
That's fantastic advice. Sanjay.
Yeah, nice question actually. So before I came to Equalize, I started Polycore Therapeutics in 2016. So I was already in there. So when I participated in Equalize, a lot of the things that I was going through already solidified with my participation there and meeting other mentors. So I've also gone a full circle. We closed down Polycore last year. So I think this has been a great experience, starting from as an academic entrepreneur. I was just an associate professor, just starting associate professorship at that day, and then moving all the way into, keeping my academic profile as well as keeping my entrepreneur profile and taking things forward, right? I mean, I'm a Parkinson's researcher, and to me, that's the core of everything. My patients are everything for me. So I think where we land and what we want to do with them is actually what we do for them is actually what drives me. And so the next steps, yeah, definitely I'm back again. I'm hoping to move forward with my other assets. We have 3 different compounds that we've developed in the lab. So I think we have done 1, and now we're going to go ahead with the next 2. So I'm looking forward to, in fact, teaching to actually start my next venture. So thank you.
That's great to hear. Wonderful. Chris, as an investor and a supporter of Equalize, like you've been with us since the beginning, and we are so thankful for that. What drove you initially to work with the program?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of my job is to find early stage technologies that are looking for investment. And so, I mean, there are many, many programs out there across the country, across the world. And just last week, I attended 2 in person and 2 virtual. And so it's a lot of what I do. But the reason I really continue to support Equalize is that as the video showed, you guys do a tremendous job of educating, training, building a network so people can have both informal and formal mentors and advisors. And what I have found is that the entrepreneurs are better equipped when it comes to pitching. They're tighter, cleaner presentations. They've gotten some of the key lessons that they need to learn before they talk to investors. And the quality, you guys cast a wide net and you really identify the highest quality opportunities. So that's why I keep coming back. I can't attend every single one of these programs across the country. So I have to be selective. And that's why Equalize has really stood out as one of the higher quality kind of, pitch organizations.
Well, thank you so much for those very kind words. And obviously it's a labor of love to a lot of us, and obviously just tremendous people who are a part of the program, both on the equalizer side as well as the mentors and trainers, et cetera. So I did want to ask, because Sanjay and Chris, you actually worked together. Chris, investing in Polycore. Could you describe how that initial investment happened, and then how it developed over time? And Chris, maybe I'll start with you and then Sanjay.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, first of all, the statistics that were shared at the beginning, where the poor amount of investment in women-founded companies, there were 2 women at the head of Polycore. One was an industry colleague I'd known for years, and I had to tell her, look, the likelihood of us investing is very, very low. So I don't want you to think that it's, because I don't want to support you as a, entrepreneur and CEO. But the technology was there, and the technology did win the day. And, as Sanjay said, she presented this to Equalize, I think, in the first year. And we really liked it in the Parkinson's space, a very tough area. The early preclinical data was good and strong enough. And we needed to do, like every other drug development program, do further work, triangulate that data. We wanted to do it in a larger species, a non-human primate model. We were very thoughtful about how to deploy that capital efficiently and how to conduct the right studies to advance the program. And unfortunately, I think Sanjay can speak to this, but it wasn't anything we did wrong. We did, I think, everything right, but the technology didn't perform. And so we ended up having to shut that down. And I think there are as many lessons to learn from failures, and how do you do that the right way? And to Sanya and the CEO's credit, they were very quick to say, look, we were hoping for more, but sometimes you get entrepreneurs who are clinging on to keeping something alive when all the data says otherwise. And that was not the case with Polycore. So it was really enjoyable to work with Sandhya. She and I have talked about some of her other technologies as well for seed investments, but I'll let Sandhya give her side of the story.
Yeah, so that's very nice, Chris. And in fact, that is what the story was, right? For us, when we started Polycore, and then by the time I had my second CEO come in, she was very driven about finding the right VC partner for us, and that kind of solidified, where we were going. And Zantajani was right at the right player for us because of the quality and also the thought process. And I loved the team that Chris brought with him because it was so complementary to what we had, and we did not have that team, and that was such a nice match. And you always wish everything worked, and that's not the case. And hopefully, there were some elements that have worked there, and then some elements that did not work. There is always go back and redo what has not worked. So, but from an investor point of view and also from a company point of view, I think it was the right decision to close it at that time. And we also have tested this compound in other assets, so we can go into other avenues as well. So where we have very good data as well. So it's not the end of the world, but it was also a very nice experience actually coming from Chris's team, where we could say that, okay, this is the way we need to go, and this is what we need to do, and looking at the data in a very comprehensive way from different angles, right? Because as an inventor, I look at it and I'm a pharmacologist, so I look at it only from my end, but coming from different angles from a drug development point of view was really the bonus, and I loved our experience with Chris's group.
Well, and I really appreciate you both talking about the fact that, this is one that didn't work out, which is, as we talked about before, the vast majority of investments don't work out for one reason or another. But often we only hear about the ones that, hit it sky high. So, and so people, it's good for people to understand expectations are there. And Sanjay, that's also why I like hearing about like what it is you're going to do next, and that you're planning on pursuing, continuing to pursue the entrepreneurial and founder route.
Yeah, so the one with the target that I had actually pitched in Equalize, and that took a little longer to develop. But so that will be something that we have already now good data on, and hopefully I can engage Chris again.
Yeah, right.
Well, actually, we
right
appreciate once we've worked with an entrepreneur like Sandhya, they do get better. And so it's easier to make that leap, and we take away any concern about management risk, right? When we've worked with somebody before. So we actually encourage entrepreneurs, if they have had a failed enterprise, to come back to us.
Brianna, one of the areas many of the women we work with at Equalize feel they lack is a mentorship relationship. Could you walk us through your mentorship relationship at Equalize, and was there anything that came out of the relationship that you didn't expect?
Yeah, so I had a really positive mentorship experience. I'm always eternally grateful for Dr. Mary Jo Gorman. We were matched together with our ICU experience, and she really expressed an openness to give me constructive critique, which I hope many of you can rate, but as an academician, I haven't had any formal business training, and standing up and presenting a poster or presentation is very different than a pitch. And she was open and willing to coach me through that, but also empowering me in that process, and recognizing my vulnerabilities and that learning curve and encouraging me along the way, which really helped the learning sustain. And I got really good at being able to transition how I speak about myself, about the product, about the business. And I'm grateful to her for that. I also really appreciate her willingness to, and this isn't always the case for everyone, but just to be available. I know that if I have a question come up now, that she's just an email away, and really being able to kind of navigate through those growth experiences and be able to still contact a mentor in this space who I'm comfortable with saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here, and knowing I'm going to get really great feedback that's very direct, and also in a space that also encourages me. So I really appreciated the mentorship and in the relationship that was built out of it.
That's terrific to hear. Chris, I'm going to move on to you alluded to this before. He talked about it, which is the funding numbers for female founders. And Sarah obviously talked about that in her talk. What are your thoughts on what's actually going to make us see change finally here? In fact, we even heard about like the numbers have gotten a little bit worse. What do we need?
So a couple of things. First, I think what Equalize is doing, I mean this sincerely. We need more programs like this. We need you all to continue to do this, because what I think is broadly needed across our industry, and this is true with female and male founders, we need that education about what it takes to be successful. And the more we can train, the more we can provide mentorship, the more we can have networks that help people along the way, the less there's going to be disparity. Because I think that as investors, and this was part of the numbers as well, we look at hundreds, I would even argue thousands of opportunities, and we select a handful of those. And so while we would love to be able to wave the flag and say, look, and we've invested in several female founders across our portfolio, but we'd love to wave the flag, but we need to survive as investors. And that means we have to look beyond the team. We have to look at the technology, and we have to believe in the technology. But one thing that can change that equation is having a founding team that understands what needs to be done, how to use capital efficiently, what are the right experiments, and what's the right strategy to apply early on. And if we can meet more management teams that have a good technology that has to be present, but also can give confidence in, hey, this is a team that knows what they're doing. They've been coached and trained well. I'm not worried. And we often say, we're not worried about the founding team having decades of industry experience. We want to like the technology, and we want to be able to work with that founding team. So I think the more that these types of programs can set the foundation for female entrepreneurs, I think we're going to be better off. And that's where it really needs to come, because you see this phenomenon where we can all list our top 50 experienced female executives, and we want to hire them for board roles and CEOs. But we really need to start at the grassroots and to build the next generation of entrepreneurs, and to truly, in the name of your organization, equalize things. But it really needs to start what you guys are doing at the earliest stages. So what we try to do is lower the bar for management experience so that we can really embrace whatever that founder experience is with a good technology. And that's why we have kind of more of an active management mentorship model, where we want to create the next generation of CEOs. So that's what we're trying to do in our little circle of the industry.
Yes, and we're so appreciative of that. I think that is something that is hugely critical to making that happen. So thank you, Chris. Yeah. During our prep call, we talked about going on a totally different tangent here. We talked about exploiting non-dilutive sources when you're, getting your ventures first off the ground, or really kind of maybe even just taking it still out of the university. Could each of you talk about how you've used those non-dilutive sources and how you found out about them and then pursued them? Who would like to start with that?
I can go. So I think for us, for me, I think specifically, Drexel University has this Coulter Venture Program. I mean, it's called the Coulter Drexel Funding Program, and it's completely non-dilutive, but it's a little bit of money, like $150,000 per year, and there are two cycles every year. So I think it's really nice. And there's a group where we call the oversight team, made of industry executives who actually give you feedback on your program, right? So I think this was my first time getting into that, and they also coach you through a little bit of the industry lingo and all of that stuff, and how to put your pitch together. Very similar to Equalize, but on a very smaller scale. So that was the first set of fundings that I got, and then we moved into our local funding sources here in the Southeast Philadelphia region, which is Ben Franklin Technology Partners. Again, that was that was a funding that we got, and the Science Center, University Science Center, that's again another funding piece that we got. those were a little bit of, it's not completely non-dilutive, but then those were more like, checks that we could actually repay back at a later time, but at a very small interest rate and things like that. But then we also got our phase 1, phase 2 fast track SBIR, which kind of took a lot of the work that we wanted to do before getting into the VC world out of the thing, which is again non-dilutive. So I think there are a lot of resources like that, but you need to be very, focused on finding those resources. And I also say this, that oftentimes we as women entrepreneurs, we don't go and pitch. There are a lot of pitch opportunities here, even in local areas. We don't go and pitch there. I think it's good to pitch, and then you get selected to see, what are the funding sources there.
Yeah, so I have the mantra that once a grad student, always a grad student. And I'm super good at being scrappy with money. And there is no shame in that game. So in order to get to the prototype point where we then pitched here at Equalize, it was a lot of internal funding and manual operations. And so an example is, instead of building an app, I sat down at a table with 4 other nurses and we built an interactive PowerPoint that was 146 slides deep. And that was enough to be able to show to developers, here's what we want to do. We have 40 grand to do it, and this is it. That got us far enough to get to the next set of funding. And so I think that it's important to be realistic about the fact that you're not going to start with what you think you can do. You're going to start much smaller and manual than that, depending on what you're doing. So we put together internal funding enough to get then STTR funding from NINR, along with foundation funding from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. And then there were also state matches on top of that, depending on where you live. And so subsequently, we pieced things together. And now, as I mentioned, we're just shy of $1 million with about a 12-month runway to get this actual go-to-market version out. And so we can start generating some revenue. And so other things we've done creatively, I mentioned before, I don't need to be good at everything. I went out and found the people who were good at the things I wasn't, and were willing to work, if they understood our mission and our vision, were willing to work at a fair price to help us. So we have some business consultants doing financial forecasting and really trying to piece together the team in a way that makes sense and a way that we all can work together here in Omaha. So couple of just lessons along the way. It's not been super glorious. And I want to point out that I had, I think, 7 to 9 failed grant applications before I had money. And I would like to normalize failure in this discussion. So there's my statement.
Great. And I'll just add from the investing side, we would completely with Brianna about being scrappy. I mean, look, parallel pursuit of any money you can get your hands on. So of course, grants, applications, apply to these contests where you can get award money, talk to equity angel investors and networks. Safe notes are very common for early stage investors, high net worth individuals. Sometimes go to foundations, find out if there's any grant money that can be received from a disease foundation that may overlap with your program. And at the same time, continue to talk to investors, equity investors, both non-institutional and institutional, because you just never know what's going to trigger that investment. And so you have to kind of parallel track this. And the other thing that, I think Brianna alluded to, use that capital efficiently, right? Everybody's looking for that program to be de-risked, to generate data that makes it higher likelihood that investors will come in. And so, make sure you're doing things that are going to de-risk the program, create value for it, and increase the likelihood. Because in the early stages, it's more about how do we increase the likelihood that investors are interested more than how much pre-money value can we get. You're really trying to get people interested. So whatever hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever you can pull together, use that capital efficiently. It also sends a good message to investors of saying, look what we were able to achieve on non-dilutive capital, on early money, on a grant money. And that says a lot about the team and their ability to manage the money that's given to them.
Really good thoughts. And I'm sure things that our equalizers and others on the call can use. I'd love to get also your thoughts. We have about 8 minutes left before we got to move on to the awards, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on networking and finding those initial business people for academic startups, as this is a topic. It's like often discussed, obviously, amongst Equalize and academic startups in general. What has worked for each of you to find those business partners? And Sanjay, I'm going to start with you again.
Yeah, so I think before I started my company, we were actually looking for a CEO to co-found the company, and I have interviewed about 50 people, at least I can say, and all of those 50 contacts came through our technology transfer office, which is our Drexel Innovation Office, which was a great resource for me. And so that was my first step in networking. And then, of course, Osage University Partners does the bio break lunch breakfast sessions here in Philadelphia every month, and that was some of the meetings that I've attended. So there I actually networked, and I'd also tell you people that this is afterthought, that you got to be focused with your networking, because it can take you into different directions and it may not help you. So could also be a time sink. So that helped, and then we found our second CEO when we wanted the second CEO. Through our Ben Franklin Technology Partners, association here. So there are a lot of ways that you can actually, find your people and, meet with them. Not everybody might be become a part of your team, but then you have a good set of people who sometimes become your mentors, sometimes become, a sources of contact for other things. So I would say networking is very important, and, trying to get your people through them is great. Yeah.
Brianna?
Two thoughts. The first one is show up as who you are, and people will find you. I think that's number one. Like, we were very clear on our business values, very clear on what we stand for, and we have found that people have found us. That sounds great and super fluffy. And so I'm going to give you the actual thing that I do every day, and I treat networking as a discipline. I want to be a CrossFitter and pretend to do pull-ups, and I go to CrossFit every day of the week. I also practice some element of networking every day of the week. And I am a mom of small children, and that is hard for me because I can't network in the normal hours in which people typically do. I don't go to happy hours. I have to be home for bedtime. That's important to me. And so being just really strategic about making sure that you're reaching out and networking every single day in some capacity, so that you can continue to follow up however that needs to look for you personally and professionally.
Yeah, and we have a little bit of a different set of advice for folks, in that we encourage our entrepreneurs, talk to as many people as you can. This is what I like about Equalize, because you have such a broad network. So whether it's through an organization like Equalize or whether it's through your own network, but be very discerning. Don't overpromise. Don't start with, I'm looking for somebody who can help me with clinical development or what have you, because what we find is that sometimes the advice you get is the wrong advice. And the only way you're going to find that out is to talk to a larger number of people. And it doesn't mean that consensus rules, because sometimes you may meet with someone who's very experienced who says, yeah, I know that's what you're hearing from everybody. Let me tell you what the real key factor to success is. And so, come up that learning curve by talking to as many people. It'll take some discernment and really being able to start to look for patterns of who should we trust. And I look for a track record of success. If you're going to bring on an advisor or mentor, tell me about your successes. What did you navigate, right? What drugs have you helped get over this finish line, right? Through FDA approval. Tell me about your challenges that you were able to help overcome, right? And that's where I think over time, you're going to find the right individual or individuals for your technology and your company. And obviously look for domain expertise, those who've been doing things in your category and in your space, who've ideally maybe met with investors or have invested themselves. And that's what we like to do. Zantaj, I would say the same thing, use the same discernment when talking to us. But we like to provide a whole team, including advisors and consultants, where we bring that whole team to bear to make sure that we have all the right people on our team to guide and influence how we deploy that capital.
Great, thanks. All right, last couple of questions, rapid fire. For each of you, what's your top piece of advice for female founders on training, where they should be getting any training from? Chris, I'll start with you.
Yeah, it goes along with try to build that mentor network so that they can tell you what they've learned and ask questions, right? It's a wasted opportunity if you have lunch with somebody and you're not using that time, not just to tell them about your technology and how excited you are and to be an evangelist for what you're trying to do, but your job is to get information and learn, okay? So that's the first thing. There are good resources. There's good networking events. There's good, I've been a part of Mass Bio. They have educational programs. There's a lot that's free out there. Also be a student of the industry by following the news. You don't have to have a thousands of dollars a year subscription to BioWorld or BioCentury. You can get some free newsletters, whether it's Fierce Biotech or Biopharma Dive or MedCity News or Stat, or there's a lot of resources, endpoints, but try to learn what the patterns are. And then also that helps you create a network as well to reach out to people that you read about in the news.
Great, Sanjay.
Yeah, I would say pitch as much as you can. Definitely go for all these pitches that give you an opportunity, that you also learn how to pitch as well as network. And the other thing is a lot of institutions have NSF ICORPS program. It is long, 8 weeks, but there is not every day. So I think it gives a great number of expertise in terms of who's been there and done that, and networking as well. So two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Brianna.
I'll second ICOR. I participated as a team member. It was really helpful. And I think we all have diverse sets of interests here and may have different training needs. So I'm going to step back and say that the first thing you need to do at this stage is develop insight and figure out what you're good at, and also figure out what you're not good at, and then let your training be driven by that insight.
Great. Last question I'm going to ask you guys, and we've been focusing so much on women founders here. We also have people from other areas here, including investors, and any advice you'd like to share for investors when considering equity in investing itself. Is there anything in particular that you might want to see out of that, or thoughts that you have from pitching to investors? Brianna, can I start with you?
Yeah, I have a thought. I think this is an interesting question, and I'm going to say, don't make assumptions. I recently had an experience in front of an investor where I was pitching the idea, and I am very pregnant. I'll just say that. You can't see it on the screen, but the response I got was, "Are you sure you want to do this in this current stage of life you're in?" Don't make assumptions depending on where we're at in life. I'm a mom, but I'm super efficient, and that makes me incredibly clear on what I need to get done in my 7 hours a day. So just, I think, I would ask that investors give some space to really, what is the talent set? What is the team bringing, as Chris mentioned? What's the value in the history of performance? And just don't make assumptions when women come to the table.
Sanjay?
Yeah, I would say the same. And given the color of my skin, I would say a lot of women entrepreneurs who are not native English speakers get dismissed very easily. So please give them a chance, and they have a lot to offer to this economy and to build this place. And so I would say be open-minded.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Chris?
my advice is a little bit different, which is, if I were to just take a look at the male founders that don't come with decades of experience, we have that conversation in our head. Are they ready? Are they going to be flexible? Can they work with us? Will they allow us to suggest that they build out members of the team around them? And so don't assume that if they're having that conversation, it's because you're female, right? Because we're having that with a large majority of entrepreneurs, and that conversation takes place. So I would just encourage every founder of every, gender, race, creed to be flexible, listen to what their concerns are of the gaps on the team, and be ready to lean in and say, hey, I'm flexible. I'm open to hearing this. I'm open to taking advice. You don't have to say, okay, I'll give up my CEO role, but you want to have a posture of being willing to work with those investors who are aligned with your interests to make it a big success. So just have that posture of flexibility. And I would say that to anybody who's an entrepreneur with an early stage company.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. We are actually just over our time. I know we could have gone on a lot longer and we skipped some of our questions that we had planned to do, but I really appreciate all of you coming back, being here actually at this point year after year for each of you. And I appreciate the very frank conversation today. I think everyone probably did as well. So with that, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Absolutely. The results from the judges and from the voting from the attendees are in. And before I pass it over to Nicole, I would actually just like to give thanks to the two people who have been working on with this with me probably the most over the last year. And that is Nicole Mercier and Katie Mangles at OUP. They've just been incredible partners. Obviously, our committees, trainers, et cetera, mentors, et cetera, do so much. But the number of hours at this point that Nicole, Katie, and I have put in with regards to Equalize has been tremendous. And hopefully you've seen this reflected and everything that was put together this year. So thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Katie, for everything. With that, I am going to turn it over to Nicole now to talk about the awards.
Wonderful. And thank you, Kirsten. She did that amazing video. So I can't do things like that. So it's fantastic to work with you and Katie. Also a fantastic panel. Thank you to all those panelists. And I just want to acknowledge again our sponsors before we announce the winners: AstraZeneca, Osage University Partners, Armstrong Teasdale, Mission BioCapital, Mass Bio, Mass Life Sciences Center, Wilson Sonsini, Pulcinelli, Novo Nordisk, Zontageny, Merck, Silicon Valley Bank, Fuentech, Future Forward, Fish and Richardson, Amgen Ventures, and Sheer Velocity. Wow, we had a lot of committed sponsors this year, and we are so grateful. Your generosity is pivotal to today's program. Equalize began in 2019 with the acknowledgement that there was a missing piece in the university entrepreneurship system. It required a cross-university mentorship program and building networks and peer communities for women academic entrepreneurs. We launched amidst a global pandemic and turned this great work into a nonprofit entity at the end of 2022 in order to further our mission and expand the potential for impact. And here we are in year 5. We look forward to the talent and innovations that next year's program will bring. Plans for Equalize 2025 are underway, so keep it on your radar and watch for upcoming announcements of dates and deadlines, probably September, October timeframe. One more thing is that we are always looking for good judges and mentors to enhance our program. So if you're interested, please email mentors.equalize@gmail.com. Also, if you're an industry professional, investor, serial entrepreneur, or a subject matter expert and you'd like to be involved in next year's program, please send a direct message to Kirsten or myself through the chat. And of course, if you'd like to support Equalize through a sponsorship, you may also send a direct message to Kirsten or me. Okay. And now we're ready to announce the awards. And I am going to ask Swarna Balasubramaniam of AstraZeneca if she would come on and make this announcement.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm really excited to announce the winners of today. So I'll start with announcing the winners of the People Choice Award. For physical science, the People Choice Award was a tie. So the awards will go to Alison Santaro, University of California, Santa Barbara, and Melissa Ormond, University of Rhode Island. Both of them went through the Equalize program together, but only one could pitch today. Congratulations. For digital tools, the People Choice Award goes to Sarah Ostadabas from Northeastern University. Okay. For therapeutics, the People Choice Award was again a tie. The awards will go to Ashima Shukla, Northwestern University, and Rebecca Kate from Northwestern University as well. For medical technology, the People Choice Award goes to Charlie Childs from University of Michigan. Congratulations, everyone who won this round of People Choice Awards. And then the overall winners in each category by the judges' scores. For physical sciences, congratulations to Nili Quisitz from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. For digital tools, it goes to Elizabeth Stormshack from University of Oregon. For therapeutics, the congratulations to Julie Saba, University of California, San Francisco. And finally, but last but not the least, the medical technology, congratulations to Leila Daneshmandi from University of Connecticut. Congratulations, everyone. Great job. Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Swarna, and thanks again to AstraZeneca for being our presenting sponsor. Well, that concludes our time together today. We obviously can't give you your awards in person because we're doing a virtual event, but your custom glass awards will be on their way shortly from Third Degree Glass Factory in St. Louis. Congratulations to all of our 2024 equalizers. We were incredibly impressed with this year's cohort, and you should all be very proud. Thank you all for joining us, for your participation, dedication, and involvement in this very important event. 5 years in, we are more excited than ever about the program and the equalizers who are rectifying the gender disparity in startup founders. We look forward to seeing you all again next year. Take care.